Somewhere on an open plain, thousands of years ago, a woman has been in labor for hours. She is squatting on the ground beside a small fire. Her mother is behind her, holding her shoulders. Two of her sisters are crouched in front. The men have walked to the far side of camp. Everyone in the group knows what is happening. There is no doctor, there is no hospital, there is no machine measuring anything. The only sounds are her breathing, the fire, and the soft voices of women who have done this before. And in a few minutes, a brand new human being is going to take its first breath. What did your ancestors actually do when a baby arrived? The answer turns out to be one of the most quietly stunning chapters in all of human history. Human birth is genuinely bizarre. Most mammals give birth alone. A horse foals in a quiet corner. A cat hides in a cupboard. The baby comes out, the mother licks it clean, and within hours it can stand and walk. Human birth is not like that. Our babies' heads are enormous compared to the birth canal. Anthropologist Wendy Trevathan at New Mexico State University argues that humans are the only primate where birth is so mechanically difficult that mothers almost always need help. Unlike almost every other creature, human birth is a social event. It always has been. Whatever the cultural variation, there was one universal. The moment the baby arrived, every single thing that happened next was about contact. In modern hospitals, newborns are often wrapped, swaddled, sometimes placed in a separate bassinet. For most of human history, none of this existed. The baby was placed immediately, naked, on the mother's bare chest. It stayed there, it fed there, it slept there. The mother's body kept it warm. The mother's heartbeat kept it calm. The mother's smell was the first thing it learned about the world. And this was not just tradition, it was measurable biology. In 2017, a study published in Current Biology found that gentle, sustained touch activates specific neural pathways in infant brains that are critical for social development. Babies who received more physical contact in their first year showed stronger brain responses to social touch at later ages. A landmark 2016 study published in Pediatrics tracked premature infants who received kangaroo care, sustained skin-to-skin holding against a control group. At age 20, the kangaroo care group showed measurably higher IQ scores, reduced school absenteeism, and lower aggression. 20 years of measurable cognitive advantage from being held against a body. Your ancestors did not have the research, but they had the practice. A baby in a traditional community spent somewhere between 90 and 95% of every day in physical contact with another human being. They slept on a body. They woke on a body. They were carried in slings of hide or woven fiber against the mother's chest while she walked, gathered, talked, cooked. There was almost no time when the baby was alone lying on a surface looking at the ceiling. That moment is essentially a modern invention. And here is one of the most surprising consequences of all this contact. Babies in traditional societies almost never cry. Researchers measuring crying patterns across cultures have found the data consistent for decades. Babies in traditional communities cry far less than babies in industrialized countries. They cry shorter, they cry less often, they almost never have what modern parents call colic. The reason is not that the babies are different, the reason is that the response is different. When an infant fusses, somebody picks it up within seconds. The need is met before it becomes distress. Over time, the baby simply learns that there is no reason to cry for long. Then there was the placenta. Almost every human culture on Earth has some ritual about what to do with it. The Navajo bury it. Some Indonesian cultures plant a tree over it. The Maori bury it in a place of family importance, calling it wanua, which is also the word for land. Some West African groups treat it as a twin of the baby. These rituals show up in cultures that never had contact with each other. The placenta was never just biological waste. It was the first thing your body ever shared with another person. But here is the hardest part of the story. For all the love, all the contact, infant mortality in ancient societies was devastating. The best estimates suggest that somewhere between 30 and 40% of children died before they turned 5. There were no antibiotics. There were no vaccines. A fever you would treat today with one prescription could end a life in 3 days. This is why so many ancient cultures did not name a child immediately. In many societies, names were given only after the baby had survived the first weeks, the first months, sometimes the first year. The naming ceremony was the official entry of a new person into the community. Before that, the baby existed somewhere in between, half arrived, not yet anchored. Some societies treated this with elaborate ritual. The baby would be presented to elders, marked with ochre or ash, given a name that carried the meaning of how or when it was born. The baby did not just belong to its parents, it belonged to the world it was being added to. Then came growth. In modern societies, we keep childhood deeply separated from adulthood. In traditional cultures, this divide does not exist. Anthropologist David Lancy found that for most of human history, children did not have what we would recognize as a childhood. By 3, a child followed her mother into the brush. By 5, she could find food. By 8, a boy could be sent out with a bow and come back with a bird. Children learned by watching, imitating, being trusted. Older kids taught younger kids. The whole culture was passed sideways between children with a few more months of experience. We have replaced almost all of it. We give birth in hospitals surrounded by strangers. We separate the newborn for testing. We swaddle, we bottle, we put the baby in a separate room. We expect babies to sleep alone, to feed on a schedule, to stop crying because they were left to cry. We wean them in months, not years. We send them to spaces where they only see children of exactly their own age. We bring back the grandparents only for holidays. We invented all of this in the last few generations, and we are still figuring out what it cost us. The original way of welcoming a baby was the work of an entire group. The mother was held, the baby was passed from arms to arms. The first thing that newborn ever knew was that it was not alone and would not be for as long as the people around it could keep it that way. Somewhere in your wiring, your earliest expectation was still the old one. A body, a heartbeat, a warm chest, the smell of a person who would not put you down. It is the oldest welcome humans have ever known.